Good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing to the news on Thursdays. I am Oyi Okbala. Let's begin. In Undaunted tonight, NEBAFO calls for sustained support for ABC Networks 24 as the call grows for continued investment and support to strengthen local journalism and compound and expand access to reliable information. Bad roads in Menchum raise and fresh concerns among residents and road users, with deteriorating infrastructure making transportation increasingly difficult and affecting movement and economic activities across the area. In Bamenda, a BUNS construction truck has crashed into the median along Commercial Avenue, causing disruption on one of the city's busy roads and renewing concerns over road safety and traffic management. And 40 years later, the Lake Nyos disaster recovery remains a struggle for survivors and returnees. The traditional ruler of Nyos, from Richard Kimbicher, says life has yet to fully regain its peace as families continue rebuilding from almost nothing while living with the memories and scars of the 1986 tragedy. All right, and this is the news, but first let's get the prime headlines. Well, tonight on Undaunted, Vice President NEBAFO calls for sustained support for ABC Networks 24. Tonight, we take a look at bad roads in Menchum. BUNS construction truck crashes into median on Bamenda Commercial Avenue. While 40 years after Lake Nyos disaster, recovery remains a struggle for survival. On the African scene, Guinea landfill collapse leaves mother mourning 5 children as death toll reaches 30, while fresh Russian and Ukrainian strikes kill at least 10 as war deepens civilians' toll. Now let's get the news in full briefings. Over the weekend, during the Grand Reunion Part 2, the Vice President of the Government of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, Vice President Steve NEBAFO, has called for sustained financial support for ABC Networks 24, saying reliable funding is needed to maintain the broadcaster's operation and expand its reach. NEBAFO made the appeal on Saturday while speaking on behalf of the President during the second phase of ABC Networks 24 fundraising event held under the theme Diplomacy, Advocacy and Outreach. He said the network's television, radio and digital platforms play an important role in communicating their movement's position and reaching audience amid competing narratives in traditional and social media. NEBAFO urged supporters to move beyond one-time donation and make regular contributions, which he said would help the network maintain equipment, produce programs, and support journalists, presenters, technicians, and correspondents. He also called for greater participation from writers, podcasters, filmmakers, journalists, social media communicators, explaining policymakers, academics, human rights groups, faith communities, and the diaspora as key audiences. Neighborhood said stronger community funding could help transform ABC Networks 24 from a project dependent on periodic fundraising into a more permanent media institution. He thanked existing supporters and appealed for broader backing, describing ABC Networks 24 as an important platform for the movement's institutional communication and international outreach. All right, as usual tonight on Undaunted, we are joined by our in-house commentator, Bar.Tim Mbeseha, who would, of course, give us his point of view, analyzing and expanding each of the reports we bring here tonight. Bar.Tim Mbeseha, welcome to tonight's Undaunted.
Happy to have you for being present.
All right, it's a new week. A new week we are being faced with new reports. This one coming from the president's office, specifically the vice president's office. And you know, ever since he got into power, I think this is the first official communique that we are treating here on Undaunted. And for the records, it seems like it's in favor of Undaunted, not just Undaunted, but the entire newsroom. And that speaks a lot of for a man sitting in a position as he is. I mean, when you talk about media is very important to a people, important to the government, because the government knows that it is that channel that they would use to communicate to the people every time, anytime, and every time. All right, Barrister, from the Vice President's office over the weekend, he spoke at large, emphasizing that the people should be able to support the state media house. You were there present. How did you feel knowing that you have been part of this journey ever since the ABC Networks 24 started? You've been part of this and you heard directly from the vice president. How did that make you feel?
In short, it made me to feel so proud. And this is why. This is the vice president. And you rightly said, we've not seen him often here. That's the essential role of the vice. He doesn't appear often because he's supposed to be assisting the president. On Saturday, the president was engaged in other duties. And that gave us the opportunity, not me, not you, because I know him, I've seen him all the time. It gave others who have not known him, who have not seen him, the first opportunity to see the man who steps in when the president is absent. To see the man, not his physical self, to see how he presents the cause, not the suit that he wears, not the eyeglasses that he wears, the depth of the knowledge of what he represents as the vice president of this cause we stand for, the struggle for liberation of Amazonia. And so many people saw him for the first time, they evaluated him, and I'm sure the result will be very positive. But back to the message that he delivered. Remember Saturday morning, we were here talking about diplomacy, and I commented on diplomacy. I said something there earlier. I said, look, I did not want to preempt what the president or his vice would come to say, because I didn't know what they would say. But that was very important, because they came in now. What I'd said earlier in the program was in-person diplomacy. That people who are experts in this business will do it. People who know how to knock the doors will knock the doors for us. These people need money. But he came in with a different dimension, with ABC Network 24, the communication section of diplomacy, the value of communication, how you sell yourself abroad without the individual going to talk to you by phone, without the individual coming to visit you in their office, driving thousands of miles away, without asking for a visa to cross borders to see you. And so he highlighted that element, which we have not done before, which I'm sure was properly articulated, was well received. Because above all, this is 2026. Communication is one of the best things that you can have, the most powerful instrument that you can use. To sell a cause, to market your products, if you are used to, I'm sure you are used to, on your cell phone, When you want to, for a program, you see advertisement coming in there. Whether you like them or not, you read the advertisement. Because that guy has paid nothing to get to you. He has not called you. You are not the only thing. They simply made a message. It comes to you to advertise a product. And often, and in the majority of cases, people buy those products based on those advertisements. And so on ABC 24 networks, which is where we are, they highlighted, and we should learn going forward, that communication is our first messenger. I go and you go and individual taking positions are the second and third layers. Because until the person you're going to see knows what you're coming for, he will not even opt to receive you. But how will he know? We call you an interview in advance, say, what do you want to come and do here? And you explain to him. Now, the person, if he's interested, must have learned a lot from this communication. But above all, the vice president and the government told us one thing. This communication, which is a very important tool, is not cheap, it's not free, it's paid for. You sitting there, you might be doing voluntary job. Nobody pays you a salary. But you just have to eat anyway. You have to pay. The studio is not in your house. You have to pay somebody to carry you by a car or buy fuel in your own car to drive to the studio. Those things cost money. And therefore, he said, we're drafting them for this ABC 24. Many people do not understand what ABC 24 meant. Now they have understood that it's more than what you and me are sitting here and talking. This is just an aspect of it. TV is what you and me are doing right now. We're talking. There are other outreaches through this very network. A radio, print, newspaper, online newspapers. These are all part of ABC 24 communication, which people do not even know. I wonder how many people have been reading all those things, online print, the national newspapers. If they read them, they didn't know how they came from. They didn't know they were part of our communication tool. They didn't know they were linked to ABC 24. And so I can only say that the vice president did exactly, he did even more than what people expected him. Nobody expected him, not me, on his first public appearance, to do that well, to do that specific, to be that wonderfully perfect, and to be what is worth it is. See him physically, he's a young man. There's nothing to discourage him about that. See him physically, he's well dressed. But looking at him intellectually, the message was properly delivered, was well articulated. And I think we can all be proud to say that we're a vice president who can do what the president would do. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much. And there is so much pride in your voice, barrister. Your countenance says, that you were more than pleased, to have the vice president. And, you actually helped to emphasize that it was his first official public outing. And, it's good that he's speaking about communication, because without communication, the people wouldn't even go far. Without the media, there wouldn't be any form of communication happening as a sensitive period as this, when the Southern Cameroons needs to be heard loud and wide as well. All right, away from that, moving on into some other issues affecting the Southern Cameroons, let's get into bad roads. And for today, we are mirroring Menchum. Now, traveling along the National Road 11 in Menchum has become an increasingly difficult experience for residents, motorists, traders, and families. And as the deteriorating road continues to disrupt movement and deepen the hardship already faced by communities in the Southern Cameroons, the N11 is a critical transport corridor linking communities and facilitating the movement of people, agricultural produce, and other goods, but several other sections of the road are now open in poor condition with damaged and muddy stretches, making journeys longer, more difficult, and expensive. For farmers, the deteriorating road means greater difficulty transporting produce to markets, with delays and higher transportation costs threatening already fragile livelihood. Transporters are also bearing the cost, with rough sections of the road contributing to frequent vehicle breakdowns and increased maintenance expenses. Passengers, meanwhile, are forced to endure longer and more difficult journeys between communities. The impact is also being felt by families traveling with deceased relatives for burial, journeys that should allow grieving families to accompany their loved ones to their final resting places with dignity have become arduous because of muddy and damaged sections of the road. For instance, the situation reflects a broader challenge facing communities across the southern Cameroons, where years of war have disrupted livelihood, trade, education, healthcare, and movement. Poor road infrastructure is adding another layer of hardship to communities already struggling with insensitivity, displacement, limited economic opportunities, and reduced access to essential services. In many parts of the southern Cameroons, roads are more than transport infrastructure. They determine whether farmers can reach the market, whether patients can access healthcare, whether children can get to school, whether traders can move goods, and whether families can maintain connections between communities. Against this backdrop, the Ministry of Public Works has launched an emergency that they say will be restricted tender for the periodic maintenance of about 90.77 kilometers of the Misaja Way Womb section of the number 11. While the announcement has raised expectations among residents and road users who have endured the worsening condition, but communities say they now want to see concrete action on the ground. Questions remains whether the current extent of the deterioration, the section requiring the most urgent intervention, the process of ongoing or planned working arrangements, and the timeline for the execution of the proposed maintenance works. Residents are particularly concerned that temporary interventions may provide only short-term relief if the underlying problems are not addressed through sustained maintenance and rehabilitation. For a place, a nation where movement has already been severely affected by years of instability, a functioning road network is crucial to restoring economic activity and reconnecting communities. The N11 residents insist it's not simply a road, it is a lifeline for farmers, traders, students, patients, motorists, and farmers. As damaged and muddy sections continues to make movements difficult, the people of Menchum are asking for more than government announcements and emergency tenders. They want visible work, safe passage, and a durable solution to the road crisis. For residents who have waited through years of hardship, the question is becoming increasingly urgent. When will National Road number 11 be restored to a condition that allows the people of Menchum to move, trade, work, and bury their loved ones with dignity? That's the question begging for answer. Bar.Tim Mbeseha, where will this happen? I know that we always talk about the road, but Menchum, this is quite sad. It's so muddy, it's so bad that even the bikes can barely pass, making it even more expensive for civilians to be able to access the road, go to work, go to market, or have any form of mobility. Let's get your thoughts from this.
You ask, when shall this happen? I can say that as far as Menchum is concerned, it will never happen. They're not going to do anything there. And your title is Bad Roads in Menchum. Yes, but by extension, let me say bad roads in Amazonia. Because what's the difference between Menchum and Manu? What's the difference between Menchum and Dian? What's the difference between Menchum and Gokutunje? Menchum and Momo? Absolutely no difference in terms of roads. And they're asking for roads. They're asking for road maintenance. No, they should not be asking for road maintenance because there's no road even to maintain there. They have no roads to maintain. But that's what the people were asking for. And let me justify why, for example, I said this heading, bad roads in Menchum, should be bad roads in Amazonia generally. This morning, I watched on TV from Cameroon. The people of Manu, this is in the southern zone, they were all out. What were they talking about roads? They have been digging the roads with their hands and mud. Every place they went was mud. They could not carry their dead bodies anywhere. And they were asking the government, give us our own tar roads. This is Manu, the southern zone, not Menchum, which is up there. And so you find that the road problem thing cuts across the board. I ask yourself, can someone survive without roads? If you can, so be it. But it cannot be survived because even the dead that we know have not survived. Somebody who dies, coincidentally somewhere else has to be buried back home, suffers the punishment of being taken home, even as a dead person. Corpses have been made to float inside mud. Corpses are carried on head load to cross rivers. And these are dead people dying a second time on bad roads. And so again, are there any roads at all? What interested me most was what this guy in Mami was saying. They were crying the same cry. Everything is muddy, everything, and they were asking for tar. What is tar? Tar is not even a good product for making roads. In the Western world, they no longer use that thing they call tar. In the Western world, nobody uses that thing called tar anymore. But they were asking for tar. And so, this is Menchum. This is Ambazonia, across the board, no road. When shall it happen? It will not happen. Because it has not happened for the past 65 years. Even what we had, call them farm to market roads are all gone. They have been destroyed. And so thinking that will happen under this administration of Yaoundé, it will never happen. Do they have at the end of the tunnel? Of course. In this struggle, when we go across, we will have roads. Why? Because we have all the materials to dig the roads. I remember in the early 90s or before then, Mr. Paul Biya came to Buea on an official visit. And in Buea, publicly he told the world that he was trying to make a bitumen factory. That's a place that produce tar. In Limbe, it is produced out of the byproducts of the refinery, with which you could tar roads. 40 years after, it has not happened. Not in Limbe, not anywhere in Amazonia. But today, as we speak, I think 2 months ago, a month or 3 months ago, I saw them publicizing the idea of making a bitumen factory in Kribi. What was supposed to be in Limbe, announced by Mr. Paul Biya 40 years ago, is now being advertised for Kribi. And so, where will they get the byproducts? From their new refinery they are trying to install there. Where will they get the products? They will ship them from Limbe. And so for any Ambazonians, Menchum, or anywhere else, Momo, Ndian, wherever, hoping that you get any good road from this government, you are lying yourself. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister. Away from that, and that correction has been taken, not just bad road in Menchum, but bad roads in Ambazonia generally. Thank you so much. Moving on, we have the BUNS construction road. Of course, when we talk about the bad roads in Ambazonia, it's not just about Ambazonia. It also seems like the, companies that work there also have difficulties. Either you'll be expecting that, okay, when they have difficulties, they will be able to fix these roads, or also, add their voices to the challenges that is happening. And so a BUNS construction truck transporting workers crashed into the median strip along Commercial Avenue in Bamenda on Sunday, the 23rd of August, after reportedly losing its brakes while approaching the busy commercial area. Well, eyewitnesses said the driver appeared to have lost control of the vehicle after a suspected brake failure. The driver reportedly steered the truck towards the median in an apparent attempt to avoid pedestrians and other road users. Some witnesses, however, claimed the truck was traveling at high speed shortly before the crash. No casualties have been reported so far, despite the impact and the busy nature of the commercial avenue. Well, several people who witnessed the incident commended the driver for diverting the truck away from pedestrians, saying the decision may have prevented a potentially more serious tragedy in one of Bamenda's busiest areas. Well, the crash is expected to renew concerns over the condition and maintenance of heavy construction vehicles operating in urban areas, particularly the risks posed by mechanical failures on busy roads. For residents and witnesses at the scene, the immediate relief was that the incident ended without any reported loss of life. Authorities are yet to confirm the real cause of the crash, or even give us details on the conditions of the vehicle, or even give the people. Neither has the construction company done the same. For all we know, everyone in Ambazonia is surviving. They are just surviving because it's either the French forces are extorting, or they are running for their lives in one way, or they are struggling to go to the farm through the road, they're struggling to go to the market through the road. There's just one form of suffer, there's just one form of pain that Ambazonians are going through. Bar.Tim Mbeseha, let's get your thoughts from this.
Well, again, we're talking about the roads. But this is Commercial Avenue, Bamenda. If there's anything that we could say resembles a road, will be in Bamenda. Not just in Bamenda, in that Commercial Avenue, that's the main avenue, which, to the best of our knowledge, have been constructed for the past several months, if not years. It's supposed to be ideal. But just look at the pictures you see there, just the pictures of what the Commercial Avenue in Bamenda looks like. We look at what is there, a road. You see potholes already developing right there. See potholes right there of road that they are constructing. You see at the corner, motorbikes just standing everywhere. Could this careless parking or uncontrolled parking not be even the cause of an accident? Commercial Avenue, Bamenda is supposed to be the largest avenue. You see there, that's a road there. It's supposed to be a two-way, at least three-way traffic. Is there any sign, is there any mark on the ground to show where oncoming traffic will go, left or right? No road signs, nothing. People survive on their own. And if there were a good road just constructed in the middle of town, like Commercial Avenue, you expect to have some speed breaks there. So a vehicle don't just fly at 80, at 70. You don't go that way with speed breaks. That will make the vehicle go slowly. Once they start to go slowly, the possibility of crashing into another person is reduced. And so again, this is roads. This is what Yaoundé calls a developed tar road. In the center of Bamenda, Commercial Avenue, in the center of their own administration, where their governors, their prefects, everybody there lives, where their super mayor lives. Yes, we're lucky, the population is lucky, nobody lost a life. But these are warning signals that what passes for development is not development at all. We will call that road a road, I've just said. Potholes are developing right now. And that's the road they're constructing right now. That's the road that Mr. President Macron, Macron's ambassador, came there about a year ago and assured the world that they have developed billions to develop that, to dig a road there, to develop the city. As if, have they kept their promise? Lie. Are they pretending to do something? Of course. And so, whitewashing development is not the answer. Having intense development, if there's a road, put up good roads. If there's a school, put up good schools. If there's a hospital, put up a hospital, which is what it is, which is what it is supposed to be. And so again, we have been deceived far too many. We have been deceived far too often, far too many times. And we've said no. Deceit, we have discovered all the tricks. That must end. We must turn our lives over. We must start our life all over again and repeat where we can. Reconstruct our roads where we need. Build everything that we need afresh. Because it's like a woman who got married and never had a child for the first 20 years. You got your first child in the marriage when you were retiring, but that was still a baby. You took care of that child in the fullest that you could provide. We who have left Yaoundé will continue, will improve, will be better than we were when we left. Over to you.
And to this particular story that we call a very emotional one, the Lake Nyos, story. It's been 40 years after the Lake Nyos disaster of August 21st, 1986. The traditional ruler of Nyos, for Richard Kimbicho, says life in the area is yet to fully regain the rhythm it had before the tragedy. The disaster, one of Cameroon's worst natural catastrophe, occurred when a sudden release of carbon dioxide from Lake Nyos, a volcanic crater lake in the southern Cameroon, swept through nearby communities. The invisible gas suffocated more than 1,700 people and killed thousands of livestock, forcing survivors to flee their homes. For communities around Nyos, the tragedy did not end with the deaths. Rather, it triggered years of displacement, disrupted livelihood, and left, dead psychological scars among survivors and their descendants. Speaking 4 decades later, for Richard Kimby says the return of displaced residents has been a gradual and difficult process. Many of those coming back, he noted, are effectively rebuilding their lives and from almost nothing. Well, the challenge goes beyond reconstructing homes. Many returnees have had to re-establish farms, restore community networks, and rebuild livelihoods that were destroyed or abandoned after the disaster. For many families, the memories of relatives and neighbors who died remains an enduring part of life in the community. The passage of time has therefore brought neither a complete return to normalcy nor an erasure of the disaster's legacy. Instead, recovery has been a long process of rebuilding physical infrastructure while confronting the emotional and social consequences of one of the world's deadliest volcanic lake disasters. As the 40th anniversary is marked, the experience of Nyos serves as a reminder that the aftermath of the disaster can last for generations, long after the immediate crisis is past. For the people returning to Nyos, rebuilding their community is not simply about going home, it is about creating a new sense of normalcy while creating the memories of what was lost. This is 40 years, but we can see a video from the fun of the traditional ruler, that's from Richard Kimby. Let's hear what he has to say. All right. We sincerely apologize for losing the audio of that particular video. But Barrister, hopefully we can regain that before the end of this news and then we can play it back. Bar.Tim Mbeseha, this is something that happened 40 years ago. For so many people, they only had the opportunity and privilege to just read it in the news or read it down in the papers. But what do you have to say about this?
It's a complex story because Lake Nyos is not the only lake in the world. How many other lakes around the world have we seen this sort of disasters come out of it? I don't know any. Maybe they are there, but I don't know anyone. And so there is doubt. We don't know what exactly happened there. Nobody has convinced us, nobody has convinced the people of Nyos what really happened. We are told of a toxic gas. What gas was it? If you know that it was a gas, scientifically you should be able to determine what type of gas it was. Has it been done? No. People have told their own versions of what they think it is. It was a nuclear bomb planted there, so they say. Can we confirm or deny this? No. Because if you leave a vacuum, other stories will come in to fill it. Speculation will fill the gaps. And so that thing that killed every living thing there, including animals, they left the houses intact. They didn't kill any house. They didn't kill the trees. They killed human beings. And if people are returning there, they're not even the same people unless they are gone on a journey. Whoever was there died. They're the survivors that are thinking that who were out of town, who might be thinking of going back there because everybody who was there died. And so how do we just go back there? Are we sure it will not repeat itself? What has the government done 40 years to the incident? To guarantee to the people, to ensure the people that there's adequate measures. If it's a gas, that they monitor in that lake, the level of that gas at every single moment that people live there. From the infrastructure you find there, everything is deserted. Are there any monitoring devices there? I think there's none. The only thing that we look at it there would resemble something other than the people, their thatch houses. It's a flag. I don't know what flag it is that. Pinned on a pole, abandoned in the bushes and gone away. And so 40 years into this disaster, 40 years of mystery, 40 years of unexplained deaths of thousands of Amazonians. It came 2 years after Mr. Paul Biya got power. 40 years into his reign, 42 years, 46 years into his reign. Either he brought this thing to the people of Nyos, or he abandoned them when it occurred under his unwatchful eyes. And so should those people even go back there? I would hardly go back there. Because there's no explanation as to why you should go back. As I've just said, it can happen tomorrow if it was an accident. It can happen the next evening if it was a gas. We don't even know the gas. There's nothing to monitor it there. The people want to go back there. Whatever kill them with all what they had at the economy. They kill their animals. They kill their food. That's their livelihood. And like anything in Yaoundé, when it happened, I was already a big man. I was already big. What happened to Yaoundé? They called on people to come and help. I remember my mother-in-law who were living, they left the BLM to go there. Buying foodstuff, buying everything that human beings could eat. And I was in Mbuya. When she came by in Mbuya and talked, I said, but everybody is dead. They are taking food there to give to who? You gave the food to who? They said they left the food in the governor's office. What happened to the food? They ate it, they sold it, and went away. Again, this is a very sad chapter in the human history, not just Amazonia. This is a very sad chapter in human history. It is the hardest chapter in the people of Nyos and in Amazonia. That unexplained things happen to them. They are forgotten. Nobody cares to find out what went on there. Nobody is giving any explanation. No one is even encouraging them to go back. If that guy, the chief, or the phone has spoken, well, what would the poor man be saying? What would he be saying? Is he the rightful person to sit there and tell people to go back there in that dangerous area? No. The technicians around the world, they don't have the people in Cameroon. They have the money to hire the technicians, the scientists, to come there and give people information on which you can rely. They've not done it. Just like anything that is Amazonia, they abandon it. They have killed our children without explanation. They have burned our homes without explanation. They have shot and killed everybody without excuse. What's the difference between the people who died in Nyos and the ones who are dying today without explanation? No reason to be there. We shall get out of this nonsense. And it is not too late. We'll seek to know scientifically what happened in Nyos, because the traces are still there that can be found scientifically. Over to you.
Okay, Barrister, thank you so much. But if I'm trying to get what you're saying clearly, Barrister, are you saying that from the time this incident happened 40 years ago, you're saying that there is a possibility that it was a planned attack? It was not really a natural disaster that happened. Is that what you're saying?
It is not me saying. That version is out there, publicly put in newspapers. It's not me saying it. In fact, people who even give the details have gone further to speculate that it was an Israeli bomb put there. Because after that incident, we were told, I didn't go there, the first foreigners to arrive at that spot were Israelis, intelligent people. What had Israel to do in Nyos? It's speculation. I'm not the one saying it. And so these speculations raise issues that the government should be able to explain and give us credible answers. Yes, maybe it was just gas. How did the Israelis find themselves there first? What had Israel to do with that thing? Not even France, their best friend, the Israelis. And today, remember, going forward 40 years into it, the most powerful supporter of the regime militarily in Cameroon is the Israelis. They give them intelligence. They give them weapons. Which weapons are exactly what the Israelis have been doing in Palestine. And so it is not me saying it. I'm simply repeating the version that is out there for everybody to analyze. I have not taken a position, but the only thing I've said is the government of Yaoundé has not given an adequate, a satisfactory explanation, enough for people to go back to risk their lives anymore. That's what I'm saying. Over to you.
Thank you so much for that clarification. And that sits well when you want to reason it in that light. Thank you so much, Barrister. And this is where we'll let you go tonight on Undaunted. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have you again as we bring back a lot from, the news from the field, and of course bring it here in the newsroom. All right. Thank you so much, Barrister, for coming. When we return from the break, we'll head into Africa, where Guinea landfill collapses and leaves a mother mourning 5 children as death toll reaches 30. A Guinean mother is mourning the loss of all 5 of her children after a massive mound of rubbish collapsed into homes near a major landfill in the capital, Conakry, killing at least 30 people and injuring 22 others. The disaster struck the Dar es Salaam neighborhood at about 3 a.m. on Sunday, 23rd of August, while residents were asleep. Among those who lost their lives were the 5 children of Sri Kalio, who told local media that she was devastated by the tragedy. In her words, she says, "We are poor, we have nothing. I go out in the morning and come home at night to provide for my children, and now they have all left." The collapse sent a huge mass of waste from the landfill into a nearby house, trapping residents beneath the debris and turning the early hours of the morning into a scene of death and destruction. At least 30 people have been confirmed dead, while 22 others sustained injury. 6 of the injured are reported to be in serious condition. Rescue operations continues at the site as emergency teams supported by evacuators searched through the enormous piles of rubbish in an effort to locate survivors and recovered bodies. Authorities have warned that the death toll could rise as the operation continues. The scale of the tragedy has drawn government officials to the scene. Prime Minister Madu Oriba visited the scene while rescue operators were on the way, while Health Minister Kaita Sal visited injured survivors receiving treatment in hospital. The government has ordered free medical treatment for all injured and pledged support to families affected by the disaster. But for families who lost loved ones, including Kalo, the government response comes after devastating loss that cannot be undone. The tragedy has also renewed concerns about dangers faced by communities living close to major waste food disposal sites, particularly where large accumulations of rubbish sites close to densely populated neighborhoods. As rescuers continue digging through the debris, families remain anxiously waiting for news of missing relatives, while Conakry confronts one of its deadliest memory as in records. When we return right after the break, we'll head into the globe, where fresh Russian and Ukrainian strikes kill at least 10 as war deepens civilian toll. At least 10 people have been killed in a fresh wave of Russian and Ukrainian attacks as the war continues to exert a devastating toll on civilians on both sides of the border. In Ukraine, Russian drone and missile strikes killed at least 7 people on Saturday, according to Ukrainian officials, while a Ukrainian drone attacks in Russia's southern Krasnodar killed 3 people, including 2 children, Russian authorities said. The violence unfolded across several regions of Ukraine, with Kyiv and Zaporizhzhia amongst the areas hit. In Kyiv, a Russian ballistic missile struck railway infrastructure overnight, killing 1 person and injuring another. Russia's defense ministry said the attack targeted a locomotive depot. 2 other people were killed in a separate ballistic missile strike in the wider Kyiv region, according to Ukrainian authorities. Further south, Russian drone attacks in the Zaporizhzhia region killed at least 4 people in separate incidents and wounded several others. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said 3 people were also injured after a minibus was hit in the capital. Well, across the border in Russia, authorities reported that a Ukrainian drone attack in the Krasnodar region killed 3 people, including 2 children, and wounded 1 adult. The latest attack comes just a day after another deadly Russian strike in Ukraine, in Kyiv, Zelensky's hometown. A drone attack on a shopping center killed at least 16 people and injured 130 others. 4 people remain missing, according to Ukrainian authorities. The repeated attacks have renewed concerns about the growing vulnerability of civilians as both sides increasingly rely on drones and long-range missiles to hit targets far from the front line. Ukraine says Russia has intensified its use of ballistic missiles in recent months, taking advantage of shortages of U.S.-made Patriot interceptor. The Patriot systems are among Ukraine's most important defenses against ballistic missile attacks. The shortage has placed additional pressure on Ukrainian air defense at a time when Russian forces are launching increasingly complex waves of drones and missiles against Ukraine's cities and infrastructure. On the other end, Russia has faced an expanding campaign of Ukrainian drone strikes targeting locations deep inside its territory. Although both Moscow and Kyiv maintain that their strikes are directed at military or strategic targets, civilians continue to be caught in the violence. The latest deaths bring another grim reminder that after more than 4 years of full-scale war, the battlefield is no longer defined by trenches and front line alone. Modern drones and missiles can carry the conflict into crowded cities, residential areas, and transport networks hundreds of kilometers from active fighting. For civilians on both sides of the border, the sound of an incoming drone or missile has become an increasingly familiar threat. Homes, vehicles, shopping centers, and public infrastructures have all become potential scenes of tragedy. And as children join the growing list of violence, the war's human cost is becoming harder to measure only in military gains and losses. For families living under the shadow of air raid sirens and missile attacks, the war is increasingly defined by funerals, displacements, and fear, raising once again the question of how many more lives will be lost before the violence. And this is where we'll end the news across the globe. But before we go, let's take the headlines. Tonight on Undaunted, we told you that neighborhood calls for sustained support for ABC Networks 24. Also tonight, Bar.Tim Menchum was part of the news. We also told you that BUNS construction truck crashes into median on Bamenda's Commercial Avenue, while 40 years after Lake Nyos disaster, recovery remains a struggle for survival. All the African scene we told you that Guinea landfill collapses, leaves mother mourning 5 children as death toll reaches 30, while on the global scene we told you the fresh Russian and Ukrainian strikes kill at least 10 as war deepens civilian toll. And this is where we come to the end of tonight's Undaunted, bringing to the news on Untold Stories. On behalf of Bar.Tim Mbeseha and the team of tonight's technicians, we say good night and God bless.